Hello, testing. Hopefully this is working. Where should I sit? Where's the most aesthetically pleasing place to sit? Should I change the camera angle? Is it nicer if you see out the door? Is that light in the background aesthetic enough for everyone? Okay, well, hopefully it is, because I'm here to talk about the new competition series that started up. I know there's like a lot of buzz about it right now, so I just figured I'd come on and say some stuff. Just being a... That train is so loud outside, oh my god. Just being a former competition driver, I figured that some people might appreciate my insight on all of this stuff. Yeah, just wanted to share my thoughts, and hopefully it's meaningful for someone. Yeah, let's just get right into it. This is something I've been waiting for quite a long time. And I know like the Ontario drift community's gotten little tastes of competition drifting here and there. Like we had FDF Shootout, which was great, Formula Drift Program Series, that gave away big cash prize and licenses for Pro 2. COVID hit the series in its second year and it failed to continue on past that point, unfortunately. What else do we have? CSCS, another great series, not really drift focused. It was very much time attack focused, and drifting was really like the backseat to that series. I don't know why. Drifting is really great. It's more of a spectacle than time attack. Like, do we even care about time attack in 2023? Haven't we progressed as a society beyond the need for time attack? But anyways, and we even had that Strata event back in 2017. I was at that. I podiumed. Dylan Sharp was there. Look at me, I'll show you a picture on the podium. Hey, that's Dan Pasca. So unfortunately that series never made a comeback after their first and final round. Don't know why. So why do I think this new series is gonna be any different from the rest of them that have already come and gone and tried their thing and failed? Well, first of all, it's not CSCS. Looking at their rules, they've got a very drifting central event layout. There's no time attack going on, it's just drifting. That's how it should be. Drifting is very interesting to watch in a competition format. Shouldn't be any time attack, no one wants to see that. FDF, I had really high hopes for. The FDF Shootout, I participated both years in that event, went up against some really great cars, really great competitors, some of which you had 3 times the amount of power that my car had. And it was great, it was still a great learning experience. It's some of the best battles I've ever had to this day, being an underdog in that series. Why is this new series gonna be different than FDF Shootout? I don't know. I think FDF could do a great job if they didn't run into COVID. I'm sure that series would still be going. I think FDF also has a lot better things to do right now. They're growing at a very rapid rate globally, so I think that's more important than running a local series. It's time for someone else to take over, I guess. FDF series was very pro car focused, so that leads me into my next point, which is the street class, which I think is very cool. This is where I think this series is gonna shine. Having a street class like this kind of oh my god, Jesus Christ. Having a street class like this sort of opens up the playing field to a lot of different types of cars. There's like a massive accessibility now for anyone with pretty much any car to show up and compete and have a good chance at winning if the rules are set correctly. So one of the things I want to do is have a look at the rules together, and we can go over them and just dissect them and see like what each of them really means and which ones are more important, which ones are kind of less important. So they posted an Instagram story earlier this week outlining the street class rules, so let's go have a look at that. Okay, so looking at the Instagram post, it looks like they have a 350 horsepower limit. I think that's a little high in my opinion. I probably would have gone for something like 300 horsepower to accommodate the large chunk of 350Z and BMWs that are running around Ontario right now. I think that's who this class needs to be suited for, and I still think it's very suited for this class, but it's at 350 horsepower, you're gonna be getting some lower powered V8s like 1UZ cars or Ford 305s. Is that right? Is it Ford a 305? The HO? I don't know. Whatever it is, someone can correct me in the comments. But yeah, it still leaves the BMWs and the 350Z G35 very competitive, and while still allowing for some V8 swap cars that aren't like way over the top. I think that pretty much rules out all LS platforms, like true LS platforms. Maybe a bone stock LS1 at the very most, but yeah, LS2, LS3, and any LS1 with a cam is already over 350 horsepower. We all know that. Power's not everything. Like I was saying earlier, you can have a car 3 times. That's the beauty of drifting. I feel like people always forget this. The beauty of drifting is that you can have a low power car, and with things like driver skill alone makes up so much. in terms of you being able to keep up, let alone power. I went up against Dave Briggs, 1200 horsepower car. Hey, look at this. I'll cue the video up here and we can analyze that. Yeah, so there's me, 400 horsepower, if that. It's more like 380. My tiny little V8 thing, LS1. And yeah, it's keeping up. It's doing okay. So, you know, there's gonna be people who are gonna complain about their 200 horsepower car going up against a 300 horsepower car, but it is what it is. I think there's other things that are more important to level a playing field than just power, but I think it's also very important that it is restricted, so you're not having cars show up with 500, 600 horsepower. I think it just kind of defeats the purpose of a street class if you have these turbo V8 or like massive turbo 2JZ cars showing up. It's like, those aren't street cars. Those are race cars. Those are race cars. Anything else I want to talk about for power? Not really. Again, I think there's more things that are more important than having a ton of power in a car. For example, tires, tire pressure, vehicle setup. So important. Like, there's so many ways to spend your money to make the car go faster and be a better competition car, and to just put a turbo on or engine swap. You could probably give a pro driver a 1.6 liter Miata in this class and they'd probably win. Like, that's kind of the nature of drifting. And that's how it should be. It's great. It's a level playing field, unlike road racing. Road racing, you spend more money, you do better. Drifting, you can still be on a budget and do really well. That's the beauty of drifting. Okay, let's go on to the next rule here. So the next rule they posted, tire limits. So they have 235 and 300 tread wear. Great choice by the series. This is basically the tried and true Pro-Am tire limit in pretty much almost every Pro-Am series around the world. For example, D1 SL in Japan, Lone Star Texas Street Legal, I'm pretty sure is 235, 300 tread wear, I have to check. And what else? DMCC in Quebec, I'm pretty sure they're also 300 tread wear, 235. So if you're unfamiliar with tires, this means that we're limited to a 235 millimeter tread width, pretty self-explanatory. Hopefully you know that. Okay, so the less self-explanatory one, the 300 tread wear. So a tread wear rule in a drift series means you can't run anything below that number. So 300 is the lower limit. So you cannot run a 280 tread wear, but you could run a 320 tread wear. Does that make sense? I hope it does. The tread wear limit basically states how fast the tread will wear under normal driving use. So generally speaking, a lower tread wear tire will wear faster than a higher tread wear tire. So if we have a 500 tread wear tire and we have a 200 tread wear tire, the 200 tread wear tire will last less time than the 500 tread wear tire. I think 300 tread wear is a great balance between tire longevity and sportiness. There's also a lot of fast 300 tread wear tires out there, so I wouldn't be worried about tire selection here. So a tire that I would probably run in this series is the Volino Griva. It's the 360 tread wear, long life tire, plenty of grip still with lower tire pressure, and fairly affordable, and hopefully more affordable with quantity discounts. I'm not gonna say that. More of a budget tire, but will still be incredibly fast. And then we have the Volino Pergia C, 300 tread wear. This is actually the spec tire for D1 SL in Japan. It's very, very fast. I've driven on this tire once in 265, very fast. It drives like a 200 tread wear, so I believe that this is probably one of the faster tires for a street class, and you probably will see this tire on the podium quite a bit. Okay, and then another thing to say about tires, similar to what I said about power limit. I would not let the fact that you're not running a Pergia C or any other crazy 300 tread wear tire detract from actually going out and competing in this series. I've shown up to competitions not running the optimal tire. That doesn't mean you cannot do well and beat people on a better tire than you. Why do people forget this? Like, again, it's drifting. There's like so many factors at play here. Take out the tire. There's so many other things. Driver skill, vehicle setup, the fact that different cars make different levels of mechanical grip. That does not include the tire grip. If you're not using a 300 tread wear 235, do not be upset that you won't do well, because you probably will not do well for other reasons. That's just me being realistic and not being rude and calling people out. Please, I would love for people not to be dissuaded from competing just because they're not running the absolute optimum setup. That's just a great excuse for never showing up to try. If that's what floats your boat, then so be it, but I would still recommend that you show up and try to compete on whatever you've got. You're gonna have a good time, and you're probably gonna beat some people based on driver skill. Honestly, everything's gonna be about driver skill. Like, that's just how it is. People freak out about the rules, it's about driver skill. Let's move on to the next thing. So they've got cages, it says not required. Vehicle specific. Okay, so that's another interesting one. That's like a tough one to play around. That's sort of a balance of safety versus accessibility in this case by not mandating a cage rule. So on one hand, you've got, okay, like we're gonna require cages, so therefore we make the series more safe, but at the same time, you're making it a lot less accessible. You're kind of squishing the field down into the very few people who have cages in Ontario or who can afford a cage. Cage is not cheap, versus we're gonna not require cages. We're gonna take a bit more risk on safety to try and promote more people to come out and try and promote the series. Obviously they went with the latter and they're trying to go for maximum event promotion and ability for vehicles to show up and compete. Risky move, but it is what it is. It's a new series. They gotta get people to come out. I think it's fantastic that there's the ability for non-cage cars to compete somewhere in Ontario now. The only concern I have with that is that I hope there's some rule they put in place to minimize contact or like not promote dive bombing or people smashing into each other's doors. So there's got to be something to hopefully mitigate that action. I'd like to see that from the series if they are going to follow through with this no cage rule. Okay, anyways, on to the next thing. So they've also released their website recently, which elaborated on some of the rules that they made in the Instagram post. So we're just gonna go have a look at that right now. So first thing I see here, power limit. Okay, they give a wheel horsepower number, that's nice. 320 wheel, that's fine. So 350 crank, 320 wheel, it's close enough. Don't need to elaborate on that. That's where this is here. Okay, so there's more stuff. Complete interior from B pillar forward. I mean, yeah, it's a street car, for God's sake. Have an interior. Like, is this a pro class or is this a street class? Street class, have an interior. That's fine. I would have even gone as far as to say have a full interior. It's a street car, right? Or is it a race car? Or is it a race car? OEM glass. Okay, yeah, great rule. No Lexan windows, this means, so you can't run plastic windows. If you've removed your glass windows from your car and replaced them with plastic, is that a street car thing to do? No, that's a race car. Nothing to complain about again here. Single stack bash bar. Okay, that's cool. I didn't think of that, but it's pretty important. Yeah, especially with a series that's not requiring a cage, you wouldn't want massive battering ram of a bash bar to be smashing into the side of your car. Like that's insane. In fact, there's actually a Formula Drift rule in Pro even where they require the ends of the bash bar to be rounded instead of straight, so it's not to pierce the side of a car in an impact. So I think that'd be cool if they added that in too to their rulebook when it finally gets released, whenever that is. Pretty stoked on this series. It seems like it's very accessible. This is what we needed in Ontario for the longest time. There's good spirit of the rules too, I feel like. Actually, that's something I can talk about too. So spirit of the rules, that's something they talk about in Formula Drift Pro-Am a lot too. These are rules like you need to have the OEM dash, or you need to have the factory headlight housings. It's like these are rules that don't really pertain to any competitive advantage. They're just there to show the competitors what kind of vehicle that they want to see enter the series. I think these rules are very important as well, even though some people think they're ridiculous and they're a waste of time. So this is actually similar to their half interior rule. Half interior, there's no competitive advantage to either having it or not. It's strictly a presentation thing, one, and two, it prevents pro cars from entering a street class. So you low-powered people should be very happy about this rule. All the pro cars out there are gonna have a gutted interior, and there's no way that they're ever putting their interior back together, even half of it, I guarantee it. So it kind of does a great job at covering a middle ground where you're setting a minimum aesthetic standard for all the cars in street class, and then two, you're preventing the pro cars with 1 million horsepower from turning down their boost and entering street class because they're too good to put a half interior back in their car. That's just like a thing. They won't do it. They won't. If you have no interior in your car, there's a very high chance that you're either a pro car or you're a missile car. This is what the series is probably trying to do. They're probably trying to avoid pro cars that are trying to slip into street class. And two, they're trying to prevent ship boxes from entering the class, which is like, I get it also. You want to have presentable cars. You want to have presentable anything in any competition series at all. So I think people are gonna complain about this one. But hey, if you have a missile, then all you gotta do is put a half interior back in your car. Not that hard. Yeah, I think that's it for my thoughts on this. Oh my God, can I try again here? Yeah, I think that's it for my thoughts on this new competition series. I'm pretty stoked for it. And I also just wanted to talk about a hot topic in drifting because I don't know, maybe it'll get me more views or something. But yeah, other than that, I'm very excited for it. Thanks for watching my video, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Oh yeah, and I forgot, please tell me in the comments below if you're planning on competing in the series this year, and if you have any gripes or concerns or thoughts about the rulebook or the classification system. Cool, that's it.